Love, in the end, always ends the same. When Dylan slid the divorce papers across the table, I was dusting our wedding portrait. In the photo, 24-year-old Claire smiles like a blooming flower, her arm linked through 27-year-old Dylan's, starlight spilling from her eyes. Sign it. He set the pen on the table, voice as calm as if he were discussing the weather. Sophie's pregnant. She wants the child to have a name. The hand wiping the frame paused, then resumed. Only after the glass gleamed enough to reflect my pale face did I lower the rag. All right. I picked up the pen, skimmed nothing, and signed my name at the bottom. Dylan looked almost surprised. Leaning against the doorframe, he lit a cigarette and studied me through the smoke. No tantrum this time? The last time he'd asked for a divorce was 3 months earlier. I'd smashed his study to splinters, pressed a shard of glass to my throat, and demanded to know how he could do this to me. He'd said, "Claire, look what you've become." I'd said, "You made me this way." He'd said, "Then go ahead and die. Once you're dead, I'll finally be free." In the end I didn't die. The scar on my wrist is still there, an ugly centipede reminding me of that day's stupidity. No tantrum. I slid the papers back, voice barely audible. "Dylan, I don't want you anymore." 01 The cigarette between his fingers twitched. Through the haze I thought I saw his brows pinch, but the careless mask returned at once. "Fine. 30-day cooling off. If you change your mind, I won't." I cut him off and pulled the sapphire band from my ring finger. The ring was simple, a circlet of tiny diamonds cradling a petite blue sapphire. It was the first expensive thing Dylan bought after his company took off. "Claire," he'd said, "later I'll trade up for something bigger." Later he could afford much bigger, but I never traded. The soft clink of the ring landing on the agreement cracked his expression. "Claire," he crushed the cigarette and straightened. "What game are you playing now?" I lifted my eyes to the man I had loved for 8 full years. From green youth to poised maturity, from absolute nothing to the brightest new star in Riverdale's business firmament. I'd lived with him in a basement studio, shared packs of instant noodles, stayed up through numberless hopeless nights. Now he stood at the summit, and I was no longer beside him. No game. I wheeled the suitcase I'd packed long ago toward the door. "I'm just tired." The instant the door shut, something shattered inside. Probably another knick-knack I'd chosen with care. Didn't matter anymore. Dylan and I met when we had nothing. I was a senior at Riverdale, majoring in Chinese. He'd just failed at startup and owed a mountain of debt, renting the basement studio next door. Our first meeting happened when acute appendicitis drove him to the floor at midnight and he pounded on my door. I took him to St. Hospital and paid his bill. When he woke after surgery he said, "I'll pay you back." I said, "No rush, heal first." He really did come to repay, clutching a plastic bag of crumpled bills, mostly small change. Only then did I learn he delivered meals by day and sang in a bar by night to scrape the sum together. "You sing well," I said. His ears reddened. "I had a band in college." Little by little we grew close. I learned he came from a small northern town, orphaned, had worked his way through college on scholarships and part-time jobs. His first startup, an app, collapsed when a partner ran off with the funds and stuck him with $200,000 of debt. "But I'll rise again." His eyes shone. "Claire, believe me?" I said, "I believe you." The day we got together, Riverdale saw its first snowfall that winter. He stood beneath my building, no scarlet, holding a candied hawthorn stick. "Claire, be my girlfriend," he said, white breath curling. "I have nothing now, but I'll strive to give you a good life." I took the candied hawthorn, bit into it, sweetness making me squint. Okay. We were so poor. At our worst we split 1 cup of instant noodles, and he slid the only soy-marinated egg into my bowl. Winter nights in the basement studio were like ice caves. We cocooned ourselves under one quilt, and he tucked my frozen feet against his chest. "When I'm rich I'll buy you a house with heated floors," he vowed. I said, "Dylan, I don't care about houses, I care about you." He hugged me hard. "Claire, I'll treat you right forever." 02 Dylan turned everything around in 3 years. He rode the short video wave, built a multi-channel network, and locked in the first wave of influencers. By year 3 his company netted 7-figure Series A funding. We moved out of the basement studio into Riverside. He showered me with designer handbags and jewelry, yet the piece I wore most remained the sapphire band he'd first given me. The changes came drop by drop. He grew busier, came home later. His phone stayed on silent, went into the bathroom with him even for showers. The first sign something was off came on our 2nd wedding anniversary. "Claire, I'm tired," he said, eyes dodging mine. That night I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m. his phone vibrated on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a WhatsApp message, "Home safe? Missing you." The avatar was a stunning girl, smiling sweetly. My hand shook as I opened it and read the full thread. Flirtatious texts, explicit photos, even a hotel pin. In that instant it felt like every drop of blood in my body froze. When Dylan woke, I was standing over him, phone raised, tears long dry. Who is she? My voice came out a hoarse rasp. First he panicked, then composed himself. A business partner. Claire, don't overthink it. Business partners send photos like that? Tell you last night was amazing? I was almost shrieking. He frowned. Claire, can you quit being hysterical? I network every night, play the game. Why take it so seriously? Play the game? I laughed until the tears returned. Dylan, remember th. You promise you made me? I remember. His tone turned impatient. But things change. I'm CEO now. I need a social life, contacts. Grow up, will you? That was the first time he called me immature. 03 I wasn't big-hearted enough to accept a cheating husband. I started tailing him, combing his phone, sniffing his suits for foreign perfume. Dylan went from perfunctory explanations to cold indifference. He came home later and later, sometimes not at all. Working late. Business dinner. Out of town. The excuses were identical. I lacked the power to expose them, because Emerson really was growing, and he really was getting busier. Until I saw a society page shot of him with the girl. Her name was Sophie, an up-and-coming painter, the spokesartist for Emerson's new culture investment project. In the photo she clung to his arm, bright and blatant. The caption gushed, Dylan and Sophie attend the art charity gala, golden boy, golden girl, envy of all. Golden boy and girl? Then what am I? I shredded the paper, drove to headquarters. Outside the conference room I heard Dylan's gentle voice, Sophie, don't worry about the project. I'll back you all the way. I shoved the door open and saw him smoothing her hair, intimate, automatic. Dylan. My shriek sliced the air. What are you doing? Every head turned. Dylan's face darkened. Claire, who let you in? I'm your wife, am I banned? I pointed at Sophie. Who is she? What's between you? Sophie stood, shrinking behind him like a fragile kitten. Emerson, this lady is my wife, he said, dripping sarcasm, though maybe not for long. That day security escorted me out. Dylan came home that night, we had our worst fight yet. Claire, look at yourself, a fishwife. He hurled a glass. I slave outside, can't you give me peace? Give you peace? I sobbed. Then why can't you give me any? Dylan, remember your wedding vow? You swore only me for life. People change. He stared coldly. Claire, you've changed, I've changed. Does the you even match the current me? The words were a poisoned blade, twisted deep. 04 But I refused to let go so easily, why should I? I escalated, crashing his galas, sobbing calls during client meetings, even storming Sophie's exhibition to denounce her home wrecking. Each time I left disgraced. Dylan went from embarrassed to utterly numb. Once, while guards dragged me out, he apologized to onlookers. Sorry, my wife's a bit unstable. Soon the whole circle knew Dylan had a crazy wife. Sophie seized the moment to brand herself a strong independent woman. In interviews she intoned, women mustn't lose themselves for love, keep dignity and grace whatever happens. Her fans flooded my socials, calling me shameless, clinging, ugly. Sis, can't you see he's over you? A tycoon like Dylan deserves a talented beauty like Sophie, step aside, hag. I heard she helped him when he was poor, so now she's glued to him, pathetic. I screenshotted the abuse and sent it to Dylan. Look, they're vilifying me. He replied, then stop reading masochistic posts. Right then I realized, this man was no longer the Dylan who once warmed my feet. 05 What finally broke me was Chloe's illness. 8 years younger, still in college, Chloe was diagnosed with acute leukemia. The doctor said a bone marrow transplant was her best shot, costly, at least $1 million. My savings were a drop in that bucket. I had to beg Dylan. He signed the check without hesitation. Use this first, let me know if you need more. I threw my arms around him and sobbed, Dylan, thank you, thank you. He pushed me away, voice cool. We're husband and wife. It's what I should do. Back then I naively believed there might still be a turning point for us. Until, while I was nursing Chloe at St. Hospital, a news alert popped up on my phone. Dylan attends high-end art forum with Sophie, wedding bells rumored. In the photo he pulled out her chair, every gesture tender. Sophie wore a haute couture gown, smiled gently, and on her ing finger flashed a huge diamond, at least a full size bigger than the one on my hand. My whole body shook as I dialed Dylan's number. It rang for a long time before he picked up. Elegant music and chatter drifted in the background. Something wrong? He asked flatly. Dylan, Chloe's still lying in the hospital and you're out escorting that woman? I already sent the money, he snapped. Claire, don't push your luck. Push my luck? I laughed, tears streaming. Do you remember how Chloe treated you? When your startup was broke, she secretly slipped you her scholarship money. When you were hospitalized, she brought soup every single day. Forgot all that? A few seconds of silence. Then I heard Sophie's gentle voice. Dylan, Williams is looking for you. Dylan said, be right there. Then to me, Claire, I'm busy. I don't have time to rehash the past. The line went dead. I collapsed onto the corridor bench and sobbed until my whole body trembled. A nurse came to comfort me. I clutched her hand. Why? How did he become like this? She patted my shoulder. Emerson, love can't be forced. After that day Dylan stopped answering my calls altogether. 06 Chloe didn't last 3 months. The day she died, Riverdale was drenched by heavy rain. I knelt at her bedside, holding her already cold hand, recalling what she'd said the last time she was lucid. Sis, don't cry, she whispered, smiling weakly. It doesn't hurt anymore. Chloe, hold on a little longer. I will save you. Sis, she cut in, if it's too hard, just let go. When Mom left she told me to watch you be happy. But right now, you're anything but. I wept uncontrollably. That bastard Dylan, Chloe coughed. He's not good enough for you. Leave him, sis, and live your own life. I nodded frantically. Okay, I promise you, I'll leave him, she smiled, as innocent as when we were kids. Pinky swear. We hooked fingers, barely any strength in hers. Pinky swear, 100 years, can't take it back. Before the words faded, her hand ipped down. The monitor's long piercing beep filled the room. 07 After Chloe's funeral I sat in the empty apartment and made one last call to Dylan. I thought the least he could do was see her off. After all, Chloe had once adored him and called him brother-in-law. The ringtone droned for ages before someone answered. It was Sophie. Hello? I froze. I need Dylan. He's in the shower, she chuckled lightly. Oh, Emerson. What is it? Chloe's gone. The burial is tomorrow, I said, voice hoarse as sandpaper. I'd like him to come. What a pity, Sophie cooed. Tomorrow Dylan's taking me for a prenatal checkup, and the doctor says my pregnancy is fragile. He has to stay with me. You don't mind, do you? Prenatal? A fragile pregnancy? I gripped the phone, nails digging into my palm. Put Dylan on. I told you, he's in the shower. Her tone chilled. Claire, enough already. Dylan doesn't love you anymore. Clinging like this is just pathetic. Oh, right, she added sweetly, forgot to congratulate you, finally free. Caring for a patient is exhausting, isn't it? She hung up. I clutched the handset and burst into laughter, laughing until tears streamed and I couldn't breathe. All the while I'd been fighting for Chloe's life, Dylan and Sophie had already made a baby. My marriage had died long before I noticed, and here I was trying to resurrect a corpse. 087 days after Chloe's funeral Dylan came home and announced he was taking me to a business banquet. Behave yourself, he warned. No scenes like last time. I stared at my gaunt reflection and nodded. All right. Our marriage had never begun with anyone's blessing, at least it could end under everyone's gaze. The banquet was held at Riverdale's grandest hotel. I wore an outdated gown and trailed Dylan like a ghost who didn't belong. Sure enough, Sophie was there. She glowed in a brand new haute couture dress, makeup flawless, belly gently rounded, the center of admiring attention, a proud queen. Dylan. She glided over he moment she saw us and slipped her arm naturally through his. You're so late. His eyes softened instantly. Traffic was bad. How are you feeling? Okay, but the baby keeps kicking. She pouted, then glanced at me as if noticing for the first time. Oh, Emerson came too. Every gaze in the room swiveled toward me, some curious, some pitying, most openly mocking. I lowered my head and didn't speak. Halfway through the banquet, Sophie suddenly suggested a game. She lifted a glass of red wine, smiling sweetly. I heard Emerson used to study voice. Why not give us a little performance? Dylan frowned. Sophie, cut it out. Oh, come on, just for fun. She blinked. Emerson, you won't refuse, right? Everyone looked at me. I don't sing anymore, I said, voice barely above a whisper. Then what can you do? Sophie tilted her head. Ah, I remember. Dylan said you once kept a dog and could bark just like it. Why not show everyone a few yaps? Stifled laughter rippled through the crowd. Dylan's expression flickered, but in the end he said nothing. He only looked at me, eyes flashing a warning, "Don't make a scene." I stared at the man I had loved for 8 years. Watched him let another woman humiliate me in public. That's what it feels like when your heart finally dies. No rage, no sorrow, only an icy numbness. "Dylan, let's divorce." I raised my voice. He snapped his gaze to me. "What did you say?" "Divorce." I repeated. I just realized that, as a human being, I've spent years fighting a dog over a pile of crap. It's beneath me. Dylan's face went black. He sneered, "Fine. I'll have the papers delivered tomorrow. Claire, don't come crying." Sophie, hearing this, forgot to be angry that I'd called her a dog. She could barely hide her glee at the prospect of stepping into my place. 09 the afternoon the divorce certificate was issued, I began packing. While sorting the study, I found an old laptop Dylan had left behind. The password was my birthday, it still worked. Inside was an anchor. It folder labeled past. It held nothing but photos and documents. Snapshots from our college days, logs from the early days of his startup, and things I was never meant to see. Financial fraud records from Dylan's company. Evidence of payoffs to certain officials. And proof that Sophie's paintings were ghost-painted canvases. I stared at the screen a long time, then calmly copied everything to a flash drive. Next, I logged into Dylan's work email, password still the date of our first date, unchanged after all these years. In the sent folder I found worse, emails detailing dirty tricks to crush rivals, proof of tax evasion, even messages between him and Sophie plotting how to make me file for divorce myself. One from Sophie read, "Dylan, Chloe's illness is perfect. If she dies, Claire will fall apart. Then the divorce will be easy." Dylan replied, "Don't say that." But, true, her mind's on Chloe now, she won't fight me. My hands trembled, then steadied. So while I begged for Chloe's life, they discussed using her death to dump me. The human heart can rot that thoroughly. I emailed every shred of evidence to Dylan's biggest rival. 10 the day I left Riverdale, the sky was ash gray, rain threatening. On the way to the airport I opened a social account I hadn't touched in months. My inbox overflowed with insults, I deleted them line by line. Then I posted a single word, "Goodbye." The picture was Chloe and me, laughing, taken a month before her diagnosis. As I reached the airport, my phone buzzed. "Dylan." I answered but said nothing. "Claire," his voice sounded tired, "you're really leaving?" Where to?" "Doesn't matter." A long silence. I heard him light a cigarette, drag deep, then, "We were husband and wife. If you ever need anything, you can always come back." "I'm never coming back." "Claire." His voice shot up. "What the hell is this tantrum? I admit I wronged you, but I paid. The settlement gives you half, what more do you want?" I laughed. "Dylan, you think I see are about money? Then tell me, what do you want?" "I want the Dylan from 8 years ago." I spoke softly. "The one who warmed my feet, who shared a single cup of instant noodles with me, who swore he'd love me for life. Can you give him back?" Silence on the line. "He's dead," I said. "He died in your success, in your circus of fame, Claire." I hung up before he finished, yanked out the SIM, and dropped it in the airport trash. As the plane lifted, I watched the city shrink and thought of the girl I'd been at 24. White cotton dress, standing beside Dylan, hearing him say to the officiant, "I do." The officiant asked, "For richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, will you stay by her side?" He said, "I will." I said, "I will." We both lied. 11 after the evidence went public, Riverdale's business world convulsed. The day Emerson was raided, cameras caught Dylan trying to slip out the back, only to be cuffed on the spot. The once dashing mogul, hair disheveled, suit rumpled, eyes vacant as a stray dog's. Even more dramatic was Sophie's side. After the scandal that her canvases were ghost-painted broke, the art world erupted in an uproar. The same critics who once lifted her onto a pedestal now turned their guns, branding her a disgrace to the profession. The $10 million endorsement deal she had just inked was torn up overnight, and the penalty clause left her drowning in liquidated damages. But that still wasn't the worst of it. While auditors were combing through Dylan's company for cooked books, they stumbled onto evidence that Sophie's gallery had evaded taxes on a staggering scale. The ultimate irony: inside the gallery's safe, investigators found the assets Dylan had quietly funneled over, his last-ditch attempt to shield a slice of his fortune. The once love-struck soulmate stood in court hurling accusations, emptying every sordid secret into the open record. Dylan screamed himself hoarse, "Those paintings were all done by hacks she hired hers. LF. I only introduced her to them." Sophie cried her mascara into raccoon streaks, "He forced me. He said if I didn't play along he'd leak my old nudes." When the verdicts came down, both collapsed at the defendant's table. Dylan was sentenced to 12 years for embezzlement, bribery, and tax evasion, and every personal asset was confiscated. Sophie drew 7 years for fraud and tax evasion. The 5-month-old baby in her womb was lost during the trial when her emotions spiraled out of control. The doctor told her the damage to her uterus was so severe she would probably never conceive again. Life inside proved harsher than Dylan had ever imagined. That very first night his new cell block surrounded him. Their ringleader was a middle-aged man with a scar across his cheek, once a supplier to Dylan's company. After Dylan delayed payment into oblivion, the man went bankrupt, his wife divorced him, and his teenage son quit school to haul bricks on a construction site. Well, President Emerson, never thought we'd meet like this, huh? Scarface twisted Dylan's collar. While you were lounging in your Riverview penthouse, my wife and kid were eating instant noodles in a slum basement. While you raced sports cars and chased models, my boy was breaking his back on a scaffold. Dylan's voice shook. I'll pay it back. Pay it back? Scarface drove a fist into his cheek. With what, genius? The rest swarmed in. Fists and boots fell like rain. Dylan could only curl up, arms locked over his vitals. He felt ribs snap, tasted blood flooding his mouth. Enough. Scarface signaled a halt, then patted Dylan's swollen cheek. Day 1, Mr. CEO. We've got all the time in the world. The days that followed were pure hell. In the unending darkness he began to hallucinate. Sometimes Claire drifted by in a white sundress and smiled. Dylan, what's for dinner tonight? Sometimes Chloe waved a candied haw stick. Saved you one, brother-in-law. More often it was Sophie, face twisted, throttling him. Dylan, you ruined me. You ruined me. He screamed, bashed his head against the wall, slammed it on the icy concrete floor. Through the slot the guard watched, expressionless, and wrote, Inmate 3478, self-harm tendencies observed. 12 I live a quiet life in the Lundvik fishing village. My first book, Seaside Journal, hit the shelves to warm reviews. The publisher invited me to a signing tour. I declined, agreeing only to chat with readers online. I'm now writing my third novel, about a girl who loses everything and rebuilds on foreign soil. My editor tells me, Claire, the heroines you write are always so strong. I answer, because life doesn't go easy on you just because you cry. True enough. Dylan and Sophie chose their road, now they walk it to the end. Now and then friends back home drop a line. Claire, have you heard how pathetic they are these days? I reply, I've heard. Does it feel good? I think for a second and type, I feel nothing. And I really don't. Hatred is an intense emotion, it demands fuel. My heart no longer stocks that supply. Last year I watched the aurora borealis sweep across a Norwegian sky. Green ribbons danced overhead so beautiful it stole my breath. Other travelers squeezed their eyes shut to wish, but I only stood in silence. Chloe, your sister saw it, truly magnificent. This spring I planted roses in the cottage yard. My landlady taught me how to prune, how to feed and water. Roses are finicky, she said. Love them and they'll reward you. I loved them, and now the yard burns red with blooms that bead with dawn dew. Sometimes I clip a few for a mason jar on my desk. When the writing stalls, one look and the world brightens. Life is rebuilt just like that, piece by tiny piece. I'm no longer the Claire who howled for love, no longer the woman who shrieked herself into hoarseness. I am Claire the author, Claire the villager, Claire belonging only to herself. Last week I planted a cherry sapling beside the gate. The landla. DY says it needs 3 winters before it blossoms. That's all right, I tell her. I can wait. Just as one waits for wounds to close, for snow to thaw, for spring to arrive, slow, inevitable, and sure.